Aeotec has been around for over 12 years and has a really wide range of smart home products. They have everything from basic sensors and smart plugs to highly sophisticated multi-sensors, including this one with 6 different sensors on it. They can detect everything from mold in your home, be a part of DIY automation projects, and have power and energy monitoring solutions for every situation in your home. They were even selected to manufacture and rep Samsung SmartThings lineup because of their expertise. But they can be a little pricey, and technically they could be a little difficult for you to use. So whether or not you can use this lineup or even just a few of their products is what we'll be exploring today. I'm going to give you the big benefits, drawbacks, and a pricing comparison to make sure you're spending your money right, and we'll delve into actual benefits that you can get by using Aeotec products in your home today. There is a lot of ingenuity in Aeotec's lineup, but sometimes it's the simplest ideas that can bring the most benefit. One of the biggest benefits of a smart home is that you can add additional control points for anything. I'm sure there's a light switch in your home that you just hate the location of, and that's something where the Wall Mode 7 or Wall Mode Quad comes in from Aeotec. They are both Z-Wave devices, which means you will need a smart home hub that also has a Z-Wave radio. I've connected these successfully with Samsung SmartThings and with Habitat, and I know there are many others that use Aeotec's products successfully with platforms like Home Assistant. The reason I love these two products is because they are battery powered, and they add a new switch or a new controller wherever you'd like them to be. I stuck this Wall Mode 7 on the wall in my kitchen and added a new light switch. That's great, but that's not all you get with both of these. In fact, this has a single press, a double press, and a hold feature on each button. And that means you can start different automations with each of those, giving you 6 different options today. This has been very helpful for me to brighten the lighting in my kitchen when I need it for cooking, and to lower the lighting when I need the lights for mood. I could turn on smart plugs to energize kitchen appliances too, so it's very convenient. And obviously, this comes right off the base plate. So you can place it anywhere in your home and its batteries will last years. It has an LED you can change the color of based on different presses, and it works every time because it's a Z-Wave 700 series device. That's actually why I prefer the 7 over the Quad personally, but both are gonna fit your home well. Now, I don't want you walking away from today's video thinking everything is perfect. There are reasons that Aeotec's products won't fit your life. In this case, there's 2 things that might give you pause. Now, the 7 has a battery that you'll replace every few years, and the Quad has a rechargeable battery that'll last you between 3 and 6 months on average. Also, as is the case with many Z-Wave products, when you press this, you'll usually experience a slight delay before your action takes place. But there are more interesting products in this lineup that I want to introduce you to. Plus, I want to explain in detail how these products work, how you can best use them in your home, and why you might want to avoid Aeotec gear as we delve into just how good Aeotec smart home gear is. Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and let's start with an overview of the lineup. The first segment of devices is one of my personal favorites. They are smart home sensors. In a lot of cases, Aeotec has a basic sensor, and then they have kind of these pro versions. Lots of their sensors have multiple sensors on board, and this expands more as you go up in pricing. Accuracy, reliability, and connectivity options are high, but each sensor has to connect to a smart home hub. Most of the sensors use battery power, although a few offer options for connection to USB power, which is very rare. The next segment of device from Aeotec is one of the most useful today. That's because power is so expensive, so having full control of the power in your home is a huge benefit. Also, almost all of these power control products have energy monitoring, allowing you to create automations that are based on how much money you're spending. therefore saving you cash. They all have high levels of electrical protection, and they have many versions of these products to make sure that they have one that fits your need. They can control everything from motors to lights to fans and everything in between. Now, I started the video talking about the Wall Mode 7 and the Quad, but there's an Illumino series of smart light switches that let you cover all of the lighting situations in your home. Plus, there's a small lineup of security products, including the Cam 360. And finally, Aeotec has a whole lineup dedicated to smart home connectivity, which will help you expand the range of your different smart home networks like Zigbee, Z-Wave, and Thread. Plus, some of those connectivity options can help you create your own network and attach that network to a DIY smart home hub that you're building yourself. But let's move on to how a lot of this works in a home and what you can start to expect in terms of benefits. Today's video is a full review of the whole Aeotec lineup, and we wanted to try this as a format on Automate Your Life. So we'd love your feedback on what worked in today's video and what doesn't work from either the segments or just our focus on this whole lineup. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. There are only a few Aeotec products today that don't use either Zigbee or Z-Wave as their communication technology. Here's how those technologies work in a nutshell. Now, every device that uses Zigbee or Z-Wave has to connect to a smart home hub or a controller that has a radio of the same type. This allows the two to communicate and pass signals that are used to send things like sensor statuses or to control action devices like smart lighting. Here's an example. This is the Aeotec motion sensor. It uses Zigbee. If it communicates with this Aeotec smart home hub, which also has Zigbee on board, it can tell the hub when it sees motion or when it no longer sees motion. The nice thing with this Aeotec smart home hub and many smart home hubs today is that it can also use a Z-Wave radio to connect to this Illumino light switch to turn on the lights when motion is detected. Now, it's a little more complicated than that, and I have a bigger resource that explains how all of this works. But what it comes down to is if the smart home hub you have in your home knows how to work with Aeotec products or not. The good news is that Aeotec provides a compatibility list on their website that helps you determine if their product will work with the hub you have in your home. For myself, I use them with SmartThings, and I've recently used them quite a bit with Habitat. Many others have shown that their products are highly effective with Home Assistant, and I'm sure that we will see the upcoming Homey Pro be very good with a lot of Aeotec's products. But because of the very close relationship between Aeotec and Samsung, and the fact that Samsung has an incredible amount of users, in a lot of cases these products are going to work really well with SmartThings. Aeotec has built edge drivers for nearly all of their products, which means that they work locally with any SmartThings hub. Now, the word locally in this case means that they will not require the internet in order to work, which is a huge benefit in your home. And the truth is, all Aeotec's products can be used this way with most of the smart home hubs that they're compatible with. That's because they're based on Zigbee and Z-Wave, neither of which requires the internet to perform their function, and neither of which has traditionally used internet connectivity to make the situation better. Now, there are only two current Aeotec products that behave differently. The first is the Cam 360. This is a Wi-Fi based smart home camera, and it does require some cloud-based storage. The good news is that today you get that for free when it's connected to Samsung SmartThings. The other product that behaves differently is the Z Stick 7 for Thread. That's a Thread-based product that starts a Thread network in your home. Now, Thread is another smart home technology with some different benefits and drawbacks versus Zigbee and Z-Wave. And if you'd like to learn more about that, check out the video in the top right or in the description below that compares all the top smart home technologies. FYI, In the near future, I do expect thread versions of lots of Aeotec's products, and I think that's how they will enter into the world of Matter, and that will bring them even more compatibility. But in a lot of cases, that will require new versions of their products that we'll have to test. You could make an argument that the third product that doesn't work with Zigbee and Z-Wave, or on that basis, is the Aeotec Smart Home Hub. That's because it is going to connect by Ethernet or by Wi-Fi in your home for any internet required actions that the hub takes. There aren't many left with this, but there are some isolated cases where you still need the internet for that. Otherwise, it's got all the radios on it that you would need to build a smart home quickly and effectively. Whenever you buy a smart home product, it's important to consider how long the device will last. Not only is it an electronic that has the potential to fail, but a poorly designed device will lose its usefulness quickly. We've already talked about Aeotec's lineup and how it is primarily Z-Wave products. What's great about Z-Wave for longevity is that they maintain compatibility as they improve the technology. So Z-Wave has broken down the different standards that they've released into 100 level series. But when you look at the full lineup from Aeotec, this is something that I think affects longevity. And I even think that it affects reliability. You'll notice that Aeotec calls a lot of their 500 series devices Gen 5. And a lot of their 700 series devices get the number 7 at the end of them. Now, what I've found personally with 500 series devices is that they do become disconnected every so often. I really don't find that with 700 series Z-Wave devices. And I'll also tell you that in terms of longevity, even though Z-Wave is always backwards compatible, you have to keep in mind that the smart home hub you're using has to know how to work with each specific device that it's connected to. A lot of companies call that a driver, and those drivers have to be created by someone. So every time a new smart home hub comes out, there's a potential for a new driver to be needed. Unfortunately, that will leave a lot of the older Z-Wave products without a driver that works, unless the company, in this case Aeotec, goes and makes sure that one is created. Now, every business is going to make a business-based decision on this kind of thing, and as some of those older 500 level products are sold less and less, it's less likely that Aeotec will keep them updated with all of the new hubs. But I can tell you that they've been very good on that front, as evidenced by their latest effort to get new edge drivers produced for almost all of their older products. The other piece of reliability and longevity here is in physical improvements in their devices. I worked with a lot of older Aeotec products, and I can tell you that their newer designs are much better and much more stable physically. It wasn't that they were bad, but I just think a natural evolution of design has turned their products from ones that could break every once in a while to ones that are going to be pretty hard to break. Now, I get to read a lot of comments about products, but there's nothing that separates people from feeling like they bought a good product more than pricing. I've had people tell me that this company is really expensive, and I've had a lot of people tell me that the value just isn't there. However, this story is a lot deeper than you think. In general, I'll tell you that Aeotec never touches the bottom of the pricing structure in the smart home industry. They're usually anywhere from the middle to the upper echelon, but they're actually never at the very top either. What they seem to do is produce many versions of their products and then add a little to the price as they add features. So you're paying for premium or specialty features, but it's often within the industry's guidance on pricing. For example, they have 3 versions of door sensors. This multi-sensor at $35, the door and window 7, also for $35, and the Pro version, sitting over here, for $50. Now the Pro adds a lot of features for that $50, and soon I'll explain why that's one of the most useful products that Aeotec sells. When we add in some of the competitors for that product, you'll find that they're in the mid to upper mid range for door sensors. You can see this trend carries through a lot of their products, but a lot of people will point out that we saw a pretty significant price increase when Aeotec took over for SmartThings and that whole lineup from Samsung. In a lot of cases, those devices, including this leak sensor, this motion sensor, the multi-sensor here, they were all priced at $20 US. Now, they had kind of started to creep up to $25 before Samsung handed them off, and nowadays we see the price for these sitting around $35. What's important to note here is that Samsung was heavily subsidizing the pricing of those items to get you in to SmartThings. Now, I'm not defending Aeotec, but this was essentially a loss leader to bring a lot of people into Samsung's ecosystem, and it worked. At this point, Aeotec is trying to make their expected margin on those products, and so I think that's what you're seeing as the increase. So let's have a look at all of the prices as they stand today versus some of the biggest competitors that Aeotec has. And you can make up your own mind. I've identified significant feature benefits from one product to the next so you can understand where some of the pricing increases or decreases comes from. Now you understand how Aeotec's gear works and what the pricing looks like, and generally what you can expect. But there are 5 things that I want to point out specifically that are the best things that you can find within this lineup. And the first thing is one of my favorites, because the basis of a smart home is what you can detect or what you can sense. If you can't sense what's going on in your home, then you can't automate it to make it easier on you or to save yourself time and money. But if you buy each sensor individually, you're gonna spend a lot of money. While we have seen that some of Aeotec's products sit in that mid to upper echelon of price, they create so many multi-sensors or devices with multiple sensors on board. Now those multi-sensors allow you to create more complex and more accurate automation. The multi-sensor 7 here has 6 different sensors on it, and although there's a drawback to that I'll explain later, all of the sensors are accurate. You can do things like combine the UV sensor on board this with the temperature to know that it's the sun causing you heating issues in your living room. So you can take those 2 things, combine them into one automation, and then make a decision to close window coverings in the heat of the day, which can save you money. Now, let's review the other multi-sensors in the lineup and what you get with them, starting with a few of the extras you get with the multi-sensor 6 and 7. One of the things you might have noticed with the Door and Window Sensor 7 Pro is that it had dry contacts. That might be a confusing term because not a lot of people take advantage of the DIY options available in some of Aeotec's products. Now, this is probably the best example, but you're also going to have those kinds of DIY options with the Nano lineup. There's a lot of different things you could connect into those Nano switches, and you could install them in a lot of different ways. But I want to focus on the Door and Window 7 Pro for another moment because of that dry contact feature. You can use those dry contacts to wire in another electronic, or more accurately, a set of wires that go into some dry contact sensor. What I did was I found a couple of pressure mats, cut off the existing chime on both of them, and wired them in. You can watch that video in the link up there, but once I wired in that pressure mat, and actually both pressure mats, I was able to put it under my couch and tell whenever I sat down. You could do similar things with a doormat, a carpet, or a number of other use cases. And while it's going to take a little bit of DIY work, it wasn't difficult at all. I started my engineering career in industrial automation, but after a number of years, I moved on to electrical engineering. In a lot of cases, that meant what I did was called electrical protection, or making sure stuff didn't explode. How did I do? A story for another day. But it's allowed me to see just how deep the expertise is within Aeotec when it comes to designing their power control products. They have the normal smart switches and plugs with the Illumino series. They look very nice and they perform very well in my home. But they also have the Nano series of products, which are in-wall relays, as well as more heavy-duty options that can handle higher power throughput. And they also have a product that can measure your home's entire power consumption. This is a product I've had my eyes on for a long time, and I just haven't been able to install it in my home. But from an electrical standpoint, this is exactly how we do it in industrial applications. Those applications are just dealing with bigger power and trying to achieve a little better accuracy. But all of those products have energy monitoring. They can provide both the data and the automation options you need for managing the power through your home and saving yourself money. They also all have really good electrical protection and really clear use cases. Aeotec defines the power requirements way more than any other company I've seen, and they also display really clear electrical protection ratings. They also give more depth in those electrical protection ratings, so more things are protected. I have a really educational video on why smart plugs explode, and this is a company that, as long as you pay attention to those ratings, you should have no problems at all, and they should save you money in the long run with the appropriate protections in place. We've already talked about the SmartThings products that Aeotec took over from Samsung directly, and while that gives you a leg up for working with SmartThings in your home, it's actually not how the rest of Aeotec's lineup is designed. In fact, if you look at the compatibility list on their website, you'll see just about every other smart home hub or smart home system with Z-Wave has access to most of Aeotec's products and most of their features too. Their compatibility list has 40 different options on it for smart home hubs. And while you won't get every product in every system, that's a lot of options. But that direct line to the SmartThings team and SmartThings gear means that they have options like the Cam 360. So one of the only SmartThings ready cameras, and it's set to get a lot better with the incoming Edge Driver program. What I mean by that is, last year at the Samsung Developers Conference, Samsung announced some serious benefits to cameras and SmartThings. Firstly, the cameras should be able to process images locally, or without the internet being required at all. It should be able to do things like human detection, but even better than that, it should be able to give you options to detect a specific individual and run different automations for them versus the ones you have running for yourself. So the wife gets the air horn while you get a welcome message. And even better, any recording clip could be sent to Samsung TVs, monitors, and obviously their phones, so you can check on the dog anytime. One of the biggest problems you can run into with a smart home is connectivity. Zigbee, Z-Wave, and other products can become disconnected for a lot of reasons. Now, one of the major reasons for disconnections is the strength of those networks. Aeotec's powered products are all repeaters, at least every one that I've ever used. That means they take the signal from your hub, or another repeater, and then send it on again. This extends the length of your network, which is especially important for Zigbee networks, but can really help you get Z-Wave networks reaching far outside of your home. Aeotec also sells repeaters that do that job specifically, and they also sell USB sticks that are specifically made for people building their own hub. Those sticks can be the start of your Zigbee or Z-Wave network in your home. Or in the case of the Thread one, Thread. But most importantly, these devices stay connected, reliable, and just work for a very long time. The only real reason I've ever witnessed Aeotec products going offline is because they've run out of battery. In a few instances, I've used poor quality batteries, and that hasn't worked out really well either. Which brings me to the reasons you might want to avoid Aeotec gear. I just mentioned batteries being a little bit of a problem, and it's not like you're going to get away from batteries in most of the smart home sensors available today. But the batteries do vary quite a bit between the different models that Aeotec sells. So you'll end up having to stock a few different types of batteries. That's just one of the reasons that you might want to look at only certain models that maybe fit with other devices you have in your home already. But the other reason this company might not fit your lifestyle relate more to the primary technology being used. That is Z-Wave, and while they do have those Zigbee devices, for the most part they use Z-Wave. That technology has an inherent latency to it, and the latency actually gets longer the more Z-Wave products you add to your home. If you had 100 Z-Wave devices in a network in your home, you'd start to notice delays lengthening, but you probably won't be able to tell until you're getting around that point. But there is an inherent delay in a lot of their products, and it hits you when you're using the motion sensors, or in this case, the multi-sensors. They have about a quarter-second delay when you're using the motion sensor to turn on lights or to turn on other electronics. You'll end up feeling that as you walk into a space, but this means you just have to locate these sensors a little better. Now, there will be people who come to this video and say that they've had a bad experience with Aeotec products, and this is where the discussion on different versions of Z-Wave comes in for the most part. It's also where some of the experience of this company has improved over the years, and that's why I'm reviewing them now. I think they're finally there for the most part. So these days, I think the only other reason you'll want to avoid Aeotec products is if you're moving in a different direction than Z-Wave and Zigbee products, and or you're really trying to avoid that traditional smart home hub. In that case, you'll have to look for their future Matter and Thread products, because Aeotec has joined the CSA and Thread group. If you'd like to know more about these products from Aeotec, that playlist right there is full of detailed reviews on their product. But if you're looking for a couple of other makers just like them, then you'll want to look at this playlist that is our other full company review videos, just like this one. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, and of course, don't hate, automate.